Welcome to the Note to Self podcast. I'm your host, Zoe Ariel, an adventurous entrepreneur who loves to make the most out of life. I'm a certified professional life coach, digital course creator, verified YouTuber, and published author. On this podcast, you can expect actionable tips, reflections, and inspiration to live your best, most fulfilling life. So, let's get started. Hello, angels, and welcome back to another episode of Note to Self. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about why I left Bali. So presently, I am coming at you from Tulum, Mexico, and I'm setting out for a year into the unknown. I basically have all of my things packed up into a couple of suitcases, and I'm leaving it up to the universe to lead me and guide me throughout this year. So we are expanding into big, abundant things. We are reaching for new levels of freedom over here and really just exploring this world and the adventure that is life. So today I want to speak specifically about why I left Bali and how I personally know when it's time to move on from a place. But before I get into that, I would love to invite you into a free masterclass / workshop that I'm holding on February 19th at 9 a.m. The replay will be available for a week or so after I record it. So this is going to be all about you defining what your next level abundant, freedom-filled life looks like in the next year. So this is inspired off of my personal intention for the year ahead, which was me living my wealthiest year yet. And that means wealth in health, wealth in finances, wealth in spirituality, wealth in relationships, wealth in love. And I'm calling all of that into my life. And the way that I have been manifesting that and have already seen incredible life-changing results is because I got super clear and defined on what that was. And I want to take you through that process with me in this masterclass workshop. So if you click the link down below, you'll get access to that. It's going to be super fun. It's going to be really expansive. We're going to expand your personal realm of possibilities and really tune into what would make you the happiest and most fulfilled coming to the end of this year, looking back on 2023. I want you to blow your own mind. That's my intention through sharing this masterclass with you. So let's get into why I left Bali. I loved Bali. I still do love Bali, but it's not my home anymore. And it's so interesting because I've found myself in places such as Bali, Toronto, Rome, and there have been points in my time where I really think I could live here forever. This could be it. Like, I love this place that I'm living. And then all of a sudden, this sort of detachment starts to happen. And I get intuitive nudges and pulls or downloads onto what's the next step for me. And what I can identify between the transition I made out of living in Italy back to Toronto and the transition I made out of Toronto and moving to Bali, and then the transition out of Bali and now being a digital nomad full time, was that there were a lot of similarities that once this has happened multiple times in my life now, I can identify the patterns. And I actually had one of my incredible clients from one of my mastermind containers. She asked, like, Zoe, how do you know? Like, how do you know that it's time to geographically relocate? That's what I'm going to get into today, because Bali is a beautiful place. It was incredibly freedom-filled. I learned so much. It's so abundant, and I mean, the food, the people, the community, everything about it is just really such an incredible place to live and spend time. So those of you who do have location freedom in your work, in your life, like if you are, for example, digital nomads listening to this, or laptop entrepreneurs, let's say, I do recommend Bali, and I do recommend staying an extended period of time to like really land on the island. I would say it takes about 6 months to land, if I'm being honest. That's when I felt like, okay, I've actually landed in Bali, and that place deserves time spent. It's very magical. It is very powerful, and I believe that I left because I learned everything I came there to learn. I learned everything that my soul came there to integrate, to understand, to learn and experience in this life. And I think that happened because, I mean, if I think about living in Bali for the last 2 years, I feel like that was the most accelerated chapter of my life, as in I was always learning, growing, expanding very quickly. I feel like that island does that for a lot of people because it is highly magnetic. I think it pulls in the souls that are supposed to be there, and it's actually where the masculine and feminine lines cross. So there is very potent energy there that's like nowhere else in the entire world, and it does inspire you to do a lot of death, rebirth, and transformation. There's volcanoes on that island. I've also heard that it's very similar energy to Hawaii. I personally have not been to Hawaii yet, but I will let you know when I do and if it's kind of similar to Bali energy. But basically, when you live in Bali, it's, incredibly beautiful and abundant, but you equally have, I would say it's like equally, you're going in inner worlds all the time and learning a lot. Death, rebirth, transformation, again, has been that theme. And I feel like I died, got rebirthed, and transformed to the amount that my soul needed to, right? I learned some incredible lessons there. I expanded into some incredible things there, integrated new and next levels of freedom there, and lived incredible experiences, made incredible connections, soul family connections. Like, I think that I fully fulfilled what my soul chose to experience in Bali before, or let's say I came into planet Earth. And what I noticed a few months before I was leaving Bali was that I started to have some environmental triggers. For example, I got kicked out of my dream villa. I've shared that with you guys on this podcast because somebody bought it and I had to move out. And then I moved to Uluwatu. And then my villa became unlivable. Like this dream villa with the dream view, like I manifested it completely. But then a water pipe burst and the power went out and the Wi-Fi was unstable and all these things started happening. And I tuned in and realized, you know what, I think this is Mama Bali giving me a loving push off of the island. And I chose to accept that, right? I chose to accept it versus resist it. And I felt like I knew exactly what it was when I identified it. Truth is light, lies are heavy. This felt like, definite truth in my body. It just released a lot of tension or heaviness when I thought about leaving. And I was like, it's time. I also noticed this pattern in myself where I started to release a lot of things. Like I started to declutter and not take new things in. And I also stopped buying things that would take some time to use up. Like let's say if I went to the store, instead of buying like the extra bigger shampoo, I would have bought the small one because there's like some patterns where all of a sudden I start gravitating towards smaller and downsizing everything. And that was a pattern, again, that was prevalent before I knew that I was leaving. But it was like these habits that I started to observe in myself. And I'm like, that's interesting. But then once it landed about leaving Bali and once Tulum came in, that was another thing too. As soon as I decided that, I need to leave this island. Like as soon as I had that epiphany that I was being lovingly pushed off the island, my intuition, boom, Tulum now. And I was like, well, I can't go now because I'm literally going to Costa Rica in a couple of weeks and my parents are here visiting and I've got like things that I need to close up here. But I left as soon as I could, I suppose. I left mid-January and my visa was expiring in April. And so I knew that I was kind of coming to this fork in the road where I could go either way. And it's really started to become clear that it was time to leave. So for me personally, I feel like I allow myself to detach when that's happening. Although it can be really hard. And what I would say the hard part about it is the friends. The hard part about it is the community. The hard part about it is people, always for me personally. Like that's what makes it challenging for me to like let go. What I have found is that you never feel far away from those soulmate friends or family that you meet in your life. So you know that you can reach out to them at any time. And in fact, on this journey, I have met up with people in the most fun and cool of places. Like for example, my friend Nicole, she's with me right now visiting in Tulum. We met 10 years ago to this month. We met 10 years ago in Havana, Cuba. We were studying abroad together from different universities. And now we're in Tulum together. She lives in Toronto right now. And so during one of my, or a couple of them, I had 2 Toronto chapters. We spent a lot of time there together and, it was sad leaving her, but I just knew like, we're going to continue to see each other. And how fun is it that now we get to experience Tulum together. So that's also just to inspire those of you out there who might be like, you know what, I think it's time for me to move, but I can't imagine leaving my friends behind. And of course you're not leaving them behind in any way, but like you're saying, you're going to have to say goodbye and it's going to be hard. It's going to be sad. But you will meet new soul family friends wherever you go. Like that's inevitable. And you're also being called to leave places, I think, because your soul, of course, needs to meet other people, meet other soul family, or receive other opportunities. And we never know, of course, and the ego would love to know. The ego would love to have a roadmap and that blueprint of like, well, we're going to fly to Tulum and we're going to meet this person and that person and this is how it's going to feel. And that might entice you to move a little bit quicker over here. Of course, we just have to trust the flow of our soul and where we're being guided. And I'm going to continue obviously updating you guys on the journey as this unfolds. You can follow me on Instagram as well. I post more frequently there at Zoe Ariel. And I share like the day-to-day photos of in Tulum or wherever I go next. And that's where I am more frequently. But just trust. I guess that's the message that I want to bring forth today, is that if your soul is nudging you to maybe move, to make a leap of faith of some kind, know that you are fully capable of doing that. And there is always magic awaiting you on the other side. Anyways, I hope you like tuning in. It's been so great reconnecting with you guys on the podcast here. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to Note to Self. If you enjoyed this episode, please help me out by rating and reviewing this show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If my energy is resonating with you and you feel the call to work with me, there are an abundance of ways to do so. I offer one-to-one life coaching programs, mastermind containers, and DIY courses, all of which are available through my website, zoeariel.co. Until next time, take note of all the abundance that surrounds you as you make the most of this game called life.